Meanwhile, on the comic box.
Comics.
Oh, you beat comics. Oh, no. That's going to be it. We're going to fight every single week to get that. Welcome to the Comic Box, part of the Geek to Geek podcast network. I am your host, Rob, your friendly neighborhood comic geek, and with me is the loquacious Liam O'Rourke.
That's me.
You like that one?
I do.
Loquacious. This week we are talking Runaways Volume 1, which is issues 1 through 6, because this past week we got several announcements on casting for the upcoming Runaways television show on Hulu, and there's some stuff that I actually don't have in this outline. Like, I think yesterday they announced the actors that will be playing the parents. So lots of Runaways news happening right now, so we're getting into it.
They're running away with the Runaway news.
They're running away. So we read Volume 1, which, before I get into anything else, I wanted to talk about this. I don't know if it's in the outline or not. Volumes. A lot of times on this show, we will talk volumes of a comic, or we're going to read the trade for Runaways Volume 1. This gets very confusing, because in comics, when we're talking like loose comics, the floppies, if you will, volumes are used to define like when a comic starts over with a number 1. And Runaways had several of those volumes, but sometimes it applies to just when it goes away and comes back, and sometimes they return to old numbering. And then when you go to trades and they talk about volumes, Volume 1 would be the first 5 or 6 issues of a comic, versus in a greater sense, Volume 1 could be 100 issues of a comic book before it starts over at Volume 2. So I apologize if this is confusing. So when we say Runaways Volume 1, that is the name as you would see it on a trade paperback cover. Otherwise, this is Runaways Volume 1, issues 1 through 6. Did that make sense?
To me it did, but okay. I've been reading comics my whole life, so...
Yeah, they don't do a great job. Sometimes, like, I just ordered I guess this is my weekly geekery, but I ordered a trade of what they call Book 1 of the old Checkmate series that was written by Greg Rucka. That was sort of the DC, one of the many, I guess, spy organizations. But they called it Book 1 instead of Volume 1 because Volume 1 you can find as a trade that has like 6 issues, but Book 1 has 11 issues in it. So really they're just confusing people. Maybe it's to try and get you to buy things more than once. I'd
be willing to believe that.
Right?
Yeah. They're willing to murder all those trees.
Yeah. They really hate the environment. If you get one thing from this podcast, it's that comic book creators and the companies that own them literally own the creators, not just their work. Really hate the environment.
Yeah.
Weekly geekery time. Liam, what have you been up to this week?
Well, I got to play some Star Wars Armada, which is like that Star Wars X-Wing game that I mentioned last time, only on a larger scale.
Oh.
My coworker manager, we got together for a game, and it was the 4 of us, 2 buddies of his, and the 2 of us, and it was 2 against 2, and we got to play Imperials versus the Rebels, and we were using the big Star Destroyers and the big Mon Calamari cruisers that you see in the Return of the Jedi, and then you get little starfighters, smaller ships to fight ship to ship, and we didn't win, but we had a good time playing, and it was like 5 hours it took to play the game, so yeah.
I was going to ask, it feel like it. Now, is that the game where you kind of have to buy each of those individual ships and they're really expensive in order to add them to the game?
Sort of. It does have a base set, and then there are more that you can buy to expand your play. I think the base set had like the Mon Calamari cruiser and a Star Destroyer, and then there are like larger versions of each of those available, and we had Han Solo in the Millennium Falcon and Boba Fett in the Slave One. IG-88 made an appearance. Yeah, it was a good time, good game.
Cool. What else you been up to?
Not a whole lot really this week. Did a little bit of video gaming as usual. Watched a little more of the second season of Voltron. Yeah, that's about it.
Cool. And I have a correction to issue on that front. When we were talking about Voltron last week, we talked about Pidge, or you had mentioned Pidge in one of the first episodes, but referred to Pidge as a he, where in this version of Ultron, Pidge is in fact female, which we've talked about on other episodes as well. But
Yes.
yes, that just reminded me of that. I also screwed something up in the last episode where you heard us mention the opening clap, which is what we do since we're recording from 2 different locations to sync it up when I edit the issue in post. We didn't say that. This is issue number 35. Boy.
We're on the ball.
Oh, so on the ball. Well, did you get any reading done this week outside of our assigned reading?
Oh, no, not this week.
Okay. Should I jump over to my weekly geekery then?
I say go for it.
So for myself then, I can say that I have been reading a lot of comics. I did a little mini splurge, and I finally bought a 10-inch tablet. It's a RCA brand or something, tablet that is just for reading comic books. Now, I did get one that has a detachable keyboard on it, so potentially I can take it when I travel, for just interneting and that sort of thing, but it's really for comic books. And it is so very nice to have that instead of reading on my phone. So I am up to volume, I think, 7 of Invincible right now via the Hoopla app. I get 5 digital checkouts from my library a month through that app, and I blew all of them on Invincible. And then I have started reading, I caught up finally on my comic books, and then I started reading All New Wolverine. So I just finished the first trade of All New Wolverine, which is X-23, now that she has taken on the role of Wolverine. And there's sort of a reveal at the end of a character that I know about because I've read the Wikipedia, but must be a character introduced in the X-23 ongoing series, not the trades we read. Apparently there was some other superpowered woman that assisted in her training and stuff like that. Oh. But it's where she discovers clones of herself that don't necessarily have her abilities, that were cloned by some other rogue agency kind of thing. It was pretty good. Good.
Okay.
I also, as far as comics, I ordered a couple trades. Like I said, I ordered book 1 of Checkmate, and then the first trade of Black Monday Murders came out. And so there's a website that I use. I hate to say it because I always support your local comic shop, kids, but I got it on sale online. So I know, but I got it online. I am, though, hoping, like I said, I think it's like 11 issues for that Checkmate trade, so I'm really hoping it doesn't come out like really big. Like, I think I have the Scud, the disposable assassin thing. Did I loan that to you?
You did.
That's too big for me. The ones where you see the entire series are like the Walking Dead omnibus volumes. I don't like those, which is sad because sometimes that's the only way to get every issue, where some trades will just skip like one-off issues of comic books in order to give you the full ongoing story, which I don't like because I like those one-off series. Or one-off issues, rather. One-off stories.
Oftentimes, those are some of the best stories written.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
I absolutely love those. And my last weekly geekery is I went to a Harry Potter night. It was a trivia night at a local brew pub, and then they had a costume contest. And they did not know what they were getting themselves into when they decided to set up a Harry Potter trivia night. Because the place was packed. People were being turned away at the door. I had to shove my way through a crowd. I just kind of told them. I did have another friend in there I met up with. I just had to kind of tell them that my friend was in there, and she had found like friends of friends who had a table. But there was some really good costumes in there. I took what I'm going to call 3rd and a half place.
Okay.
Because I made it into the top 5, which was the staff pick. And then I didn't make it into the top 3, which was audience choice. So I went as Mad-Eye Moody, and I thought I had a pretty good costume put together. I had to find a wig last minute, and I found a Kurt Cobain wig. That worked out okay. It's a little thick. It wasn't as thin as I wanted it to be, but the top 3 were somebody who did a home, and at least 2 of these were made by the same woman. She made a wonderful Dolores Umbridge costume for herself, and then in her group of cosplayers, she also made this really great Dumbledore, and it's all by hand. And then there was an Oliver Wood, so somebody in Hogwarts Quidditch robes. And they were the top 3, and rightly so. Though there was an amazing Remus Lupin there. I know it's a simpler costume. It's like wear a suit, wear gray robes, and put scars on your face. But it was a really good time. There are pictures up on my personal Twitter, @Nobi, I think, if people want to go and check that out. But that's it. That's Weekly Geekery. That's what we've been up to this week. How about we get into some news, Liam?
Let's do it, Rob.
News. First up, we have Marvel stuff. Let's start with some Marvel TV news because big thing here, folks. If you didn't see it, what are you doing on the internet? Don't tell us. We don't want to know. There's a new Iron Fist, or rather the first full Iron Fist trailer is out, plus a second clip that Netflix released just showing Colleen Wing in a cage fight taking out two different dudes. Did you see these trailers?
Oh, I did.
What did you think? What was your impression? Now, you've seen everything that Netflix has to offer for Marvel?
I have not seen the Jessica Jones or the Luke Cage yet.
Okay. There wasn't a whole lot tying, there wasn't anything you necessarily needed to see. There's the one character of Madame Cho,
yes. And they have one of the night nurses, the Rosario Dawson character. Yes. So, yeah, little tie-ins to the Daredevil series, but yeah, nothing into Jessica Jones or Luke Cage that I saw.
Okay.
But yeah, I liked the trailer quite a bit. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Iron Fist really as a character. You know, I've always seen him there in sort of the cavalcade of Marvel characters, but I haven't read him before. So the Kunlun, that's pretty much the only reference of his that I was aware of. But yeah, the series looks like it'll be pretty cool. I like the tie-in to the Daredevil with the Madame Cho, because I think that'll give you a little more insight as to what her motives are and everything, because clearly she's been there in the last seasons of Daredevil, but it's been a little bit more about the Wilson Fisk and about the hand. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what her whole connection to everything is and how they're going to tie the 3 series together.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. It gave you sort of a clear indication of what direction the show is going to go into. I hope it's not as stalled out in the middle as Luke Cage was. I really liked Luke Cage, but I felt like they didn't need quite as many episodes as they made. Or if they did, that they could have maybe done something else or pushed the story a little farther. I felt they had to let that main story stretch out a little bit too much. But we do not get, unless it is Madame Cho, we do not get an inkling of who our main villain is in Iron Fist, and I do not know Iron Fist well enough. So we're going to have to do it. We're going to have to do a Who is Iron Fist and figure out which volume of... it would probably be Luke Cage and Iron Fist, because Iron Fist didn't last very long on his own.
Yeah.
But we, which we talked about, well, I talked about, you weren't there yet, back in the Luke Cage episode, where we mentioned that they both had their own series, and then both of them went down in popularity, so Marvel just pushed them together, and you got Luke Cage and Iron Fist. So we may have to find a run or a trade or something there. I know they have those big Marvel Essentials, but I don't know. We're going to have to figure out what to read for that. There is a new series currently going on, but I don't know if that'll do it. At the very least, we're going to do a Who is Iron Fist before this show comes out on March 17th. So the trailers are both in the show notes. Otherwise, you can always just hop on YouTube, search Netflix, or search Iron Fist, and you will find both of those videos. Next up, Marvel TV news. Cloak and Dagger now have their... It's one show. Cloak and Dagger has its 2 stars. Actress-singer Olivia Holt from Kickin' It will be Tandy Brown, a.k.a. Dagger, and Aubrey Joseph from The Night Of will be Tyrone Johnson, a.k.a. Cloak. And I have sort of the character descriptions that they posted. This is going to be on the Freeform network, which, as you so aptly put it, is ABC crap, but this is the rebranded ABC Family. It is meant to be a coming-of-age story, and what's interesting is we're getting this. Like, one way or the other, Cloak and Dagger is coming to television. It was greenlit as a straight-to-order series, which I believe means no pilot. There is no test period. There is no... normally a show has to make a pilot and then shop the pilot around, change things, maybe even change casting. Like Willow on Buffy was famously a different character, or a different actress, rather, before the show started.
Joe Rogan in News Radio.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, that pilot episode had somebody totally different.
Yep.
And then Joe Rogan, which is a better step.
Yeah, absolutely. We will also, at some point, then have to do a Who Are Cloak and Dagger. We have so much news, I'm not going to go through and read the whole thing. Essentially, they are also Runaways. They actually appear in the Runaways comic eventually, but they were also Runaways. Dagger has the ability to control light and throw like light daggers, and Cloak has a cloak, and he's basically just that. He's a head in a giant cloak that can teleport and has, I don't know, darkness powers or something. I know the teleportation thing. Like, honestly, the most I know about Cloak and Dagger is they were in the Spider-Man Venom Sega Genesis game Separation Anxiety, where you fight against Carnage because he was in the Maximum Carnage game. Or rather, the Maximum Carnage run of Spider-Man, Cloak and Dagger showed up.
Okay.
So they're in the video game. That's what I know. Like, I do not know nearly enough about these characters, so I look forward to learning about them in the future. Next up, X-Men. There's a show that I talked about a long time ago where they're putting together an X-Men show on Fox that's about parents with a mutant kid who go and have to find like this mutant underground or something to protect their child. They have cast Blair Redford as Sam, the strong-headed Native American leader of the Underground Network. And it's also been announced that Bryan Singer, the guy who directed the first two... Did Singer do X3?
No, that was Brett Ratner.
That's right. Yeah. So Bryan Singer...
But he came back for Days of Future Past.
Right. He's directing the pilot. Now, I was thinking Native American mutant. Naturally, if you're like me and a nerd, you think of Thunderbird, a.k.a. Warpath. But that is John Proudstar. He was one of the X-Men that joined in Giant X-Men #1, which was also the one that introduced Wolverine and Nightcrawler and Storm and Colossus and was this international X-Men team that went to go and save the original X-Men team. This is not that character. And the only X-Men that I know whose name is Sam Guthrie, a.k.a. Cannonball, and he's more like a hick farm boy, if I remember correctly. So I'm guessing Sam is an original... I'm guessing the show is going to be like kind of like Legion, where it's in-universe, but it's not. You know what I mean? Like, it references X-Men stuff, but it's not technically part of the movie canon.
Yeah.
Which I am okay with. But it's going to confuse a lot of people until people can wrap their heads around it.
That's true. You know? I have been even a little duped by these Legion commercials, because obviously Legion is a powerful mutant, but they're very vague, these TV spots I've seen for it.
Yeah, I saw one review that was positive, that they liked it and said, you know, it's going to be interesting to set it up. It's by the guy that made Fargo, and people like Fargo, the TV show.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I say guy. I don't know for sure. Guy, gal. The person. The person who created Fargo. Marvel movie news, more trailers, because the big game. You can't actually say Super Bowl. Whoops. But like, you're not supposed to in advertising. That's why you'll see big game spot on YouTube and stuff like that, because they lock that down. You cannot use that term. So we got a new Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 trailer. We got a new commercial, rather, I would say, than a full trailer for Logan, as well as a clip, and then there's actually a second clip that I may have sent to you. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's go Guardians.
Okay. What'd you think of the Guardians trailer?
You know, the movie looks like it's going to be fun. I definitely have to give him that. Maybe it's just been a little while since I watched the original, but it seems like everybody is trying to be the comic relief.
Yeah.
You know, I guess I would just appreciate a little bit more of at least one person being a bit more of like the straight character, because I see Star-Lord cracking jokes, Groot cracking jokes, Rocket Raccoon cracking jokes, Drax cracking jokes. It's just, as I'm sure the movie's going to be great, but I just would like to have somebody be a little serious from time to time.
No, I think that's a totally valid concern, and it's like sitcoms, where you watch the first season of a sitcom, and by the end, especially long-running sitcoms, they are a complete caricature of their original character.
Yes.
Like, you go from season 1 of Friends, where Joey is just an actor who thinks he's pretty and maybe sometimes has a lapse in intelligence, but is a pretty normal dude. By the end, he can't feed himself.
Yeah.
You know, like, maybe that's where hopefully Guardians doesn't go, where they take everybody and say, oh, this is this. It's like the Matrix sequels. Oh, this is the stuff they liked in the first one. Or rather, this is the stuff we noticed them talking about online. Let's just do that from now on and ignore the rest.
Yeah.
And that's how you get things like the Underworld sequels and the Matrix sequels and all of these series that continue, but it just goes style over substance and stops caring about story. Though I'm hoping, they're going to have to build the story somewhat in order to move on to the Avengers Infinity War stuff.
Yeah.
So even if it's just the end credit sequence, I hope that's not the case. That they're just like, look, the movie's just going to be whatever we want now because the only thing you care about is the end credit sequence, and that's the thing that historically ties the next movie together.
Yeah. Yeah, the entire movie is just totally non-related, and then the stinger is Thanos just gripping another one of the Infinity Stones.
Yeah. That wouldn't surprise me. That would not surprise me. So for Logan, we got a new commercial with yet another song. I was not as impressed with this one. It wasn't bad. It's a lot of the same footage we've already seen. There's a couple new shots in there, just with the song. Just the fact that they're clearly doing these mini music videos, and maybe it's just that you can't top the first one, and then the second one was obviously amazing too. But some of the feels that they threw out at you already.
Yeah. Yeah, the Johnny Cash Hurt version was so perfect. Just right on the nose for that,
Yeah.
So anything after that it's good, but it's just kind of like a lesser good imitation of that same concept. But
Right.
I liked this, not the little short one, but the one that actually showed like a scene.
Yeah. So they released 2 clips in addition to this latest commercial that ran during the big game. And that's what gives us a little more context. In one, it looks like, or it's suggested that he may have been hired or asked by a friend to sort of serve as muscle because there are some sort of gang controlling this guy's place of business or whatever it might be. And that is reminiscent of Old Man Logan a little bit, except Logan takes action here, where normally in Old Man Logan the whole thing is he doesn't anymore. And in the second clip, we get a little more context and we find out that Logan is now actually a limo driver. And that's why that limo is in the other scene, is it shows him driving just rich kids and people doing weddings and proms and whatever around town, while audio plays over it from him asking about buying a boat, it sounds like. Talks about how he doesn't like paperwork, he wants to pay cash. And wonderful Easter egg, he refers to himself as James Howlett, which is, in fact, Wolverine's real name. Dropping knowledge bombs on you.
Aw, yeah. Boom.
But I still look forward to it. It seems like there's a lot more there than maybe we know, and I'm sure some of that stuff might be flashback.
Yeah. And we did finally get a little look at Caliban,
Yes,
played
we
by
did.
Stephen Merchant. And I'm hoping that we're not being shown the last second he's in the movie. I don't know how closely you watched his part of that clip, but he's, from the looks of it, in the back of some sort of a vehicle.
Yeah.
And he's got a grenade in each hand.
Oh, no, that I didn't see. I noticed that he was in the back of a truck, but I didn't look at what he was holding. Interesting.
Yeah, and he I think they have the triggers, those type of grenades.
Yeah.
And that he lets those go at just before the camera cuts to the next thing. So I'm hoping it's not just showing us the last 2 seconds of the character before he blows himself up with grenades, So, because that would be one of those oh, great, you're ruining the movie by showing us things kind of moments in a trailer.
Yeah. Well, I wonder, is it time to stop then? Now that we're excited for the movie, do we just stop paying attention to literally everything else that comes out? It's bad for the show, but you know what I mean? Just so we don't avoid seeing something that ruins it. Because now we have questions and we're curious.
Yeah.
But when you get too far and they show you too much new footage, instead of just recutting, I say, you're good now. Just recut the footage you have into little TV spots.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't need to give us a whole new one.
No, I feel like a third full trailer might throw out too many spoilers.
Yeah. They're at that point where they've already given us enough that we want to see the movie, and they're maybe starting to give us a little more than we needed. So yeah, I don't think we need to see anything more from them until the movie's release, unless it's just footage that we've already seen recut somehow.
Exactly. And it's only a couple of months, so...
It's not even. It's less than a month.
Yeah, so you did good. Now knock it off.
Yeah, give us 3 weeks of nothing and let us just see the movie.
Marvel Games. This is a call directly to Void from the Geek to Geek podcast, because he's the video game news guy. So he needs to look into this and get back to us. There's something called the Avengers Project. Trailers in the show notes. It is announced as a multi-year, multi-game partnership between Marvel and Square Enix. And the first game is called The Avengers Project. It's being made by Crystal Dynamics, who developed the Tomb Raider games, and they're working with Eidos Montreal, who made the Deus Ex game. And the teaser says something about creating a universe that gamers can play in for years to come, and that's it. So they don't really tell us it's a teaser. I don't know if that means it's an MMO. I don't know if it means it's the start of a new game series or one of those collectibles things like the Disney Infinity. So we don't know. So Void has to go and find out for us, and then he gets to come on the show and tell us what the heck is going on.
There we go. Yeah, I watched that trailer or the little clip for it or whatever. I had no idea what I was looking at. But Those are some good game developers. I mean, the Deus Ex games are great, and Tomb Raider, certainly popular, so they've got to have some quality there. I can't say I've never played one. But Square Enix is a good game developer, so here's hoping.
Yeah, bringing us over to DC with a shibba-doo-doo-ba-doo-boo.
Boop.
Yeah. Basically, I just have a little somebody, who was it? It might have been Damien. One of our friends sent me a message saying that I should split it up between DC and Marvel news, so I'm not jumping back and forth. So put in a little tiny on DC. You and I were talking about before we started recording. I think Powerless is on Hulu. I wasn't aware of that. You said there's 2 episodes that are up?
2 episodes.
Okay, so for next week, I'm going to say we're going to watch Powerless, at least the first episode, just to get that out of the way and come back and tell you guys what we think of it. Other news in DC TV is they have ordered a Black Lightning television pilot from the folks who make Arrow, Flash, and Supergirl. I don't know a ton about the character Black Lightning. I've certainly read a handful of comics with him in it. It's usually Justice League or big group things. It's a black man who can control lightning. So think Electro. Well, I guess literally think Electro from the most recent Spider-Man movie, because they made Electro, black in that movie.
But don't think about it too hard, because that movie was trash.
Oh, I never saw it.
Yeah, trash.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they changed the name of it and they don't call it Black Lightning. I believe, wasn't the character called like Vulcan or something on Super Friends?
Yeah.
And like wasn't wearing pants?
Yeah.
Like he had the bare legs and the underwear. And they always used him in Harvey Birdman.
Yeah.
Right? As the character would come in and go, in my pants. Fantastic. DC movies, this includes our direct-to-DVD stuff. We have another trailer. It's just lots of trailers this week. Teen Titans Judas Contract animated trailer. Link in the show notes. It looks like it's taking place in the current animated continuity, though, if you will. So this is a famous, if not the most famous, Teen Titans story of all time. It's hard to talk about it without spoiling it. There's a big twist in the story. We'll just put it that way. But the trailer shows the new Jaime Reyes, the new Blue Beetle, the young one, I can't recall his last name, and Damian Wayne as Robin and Dick Grayson as Nightwing, whereas the original story took place when Dick Grayson was Robin, and it was all the teen sidekicks were the original Teen Titans, obviously.
Mm-hmm. And it is Jamie Reyes.
Reyes, okay. And I believe it's pronounced Jaime.
Oh, you're probably right.
Yeah. But good, Reyes. I was on target there. Good.
There you go.
Fantastic. But link to that in the show notes. I don't dislike the latest DC animated stuff. I think I'm going to go back and watch Young Justice just because I like that so much, and I know that in some ways that was kind of an extension of the animated things. I don't know that it was officially supposed to be in the same universe. I don't think, but I am not sure. In any case, a lot of these DC movies are set in one universe now, and I kind of like it, but I feel like they're trying to do sort of like a Marvel thing with their animated universe, and it doesn't always work out.
Yeah.
Case in point, the Justice League Dark animated movie is out now. I saw a positive review. I actually went and got it, and it was okay, but I'm thinking we watch Justice League Dark and we watch Powerless for next week, and we do kind of a duo review of DC stuff. that people can go and watch. Does that work for
Yeah.
you?
That works for me.
Fantastic. 2 other quick DC movie stuff because we got so much we got to get through. The Batman, Ben Affleck, as we talked about last time, no longer the director, so they are looking at the War for the Planet of the Apes director, Matt Reeves, to take over. I have not seen that movie. Have you?
No, not that one.
Okay.
I saw the first of the series, but yeah, I haven't seen the most recent.
Okay, so I can't speak unless there was something else I saw by him that I don't know about. And then there was a lot of news back and forth about whether they were going to do yet another full rewrite because it's a new director, which means a new creative team. Then there was another news story that came out saying they were okay with the script. So the point is there's kind of no news right now because everything is in flux with this movie.
Yeah.
So I can keep throwing news at you guys, but there's really nothing concrete going on.
And I'm looking at this Matt Reeves IMDb.
Yeah.
Director, not a lot. The Pallbearer with David Schwimmer
Okay.
from 1996.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did that. He did some TV, including Homicide, Life on the Street, Gideon's Crossing, and Felicity. He did Cloverfield, Let Me In, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and now this.
Oh. Well, why would they call him the War for the Planet of the Apes guy? Everybody would know him for Cloverfield. Which was okay.
He did do War for the Planet of the Apes.
That's true. I suppose that's his most recent thing.
Yeah, but I mean, Cloverfield, people know that movie still.
Yeah, they don't necessarily have good things to say about it, but they know it.
Yeah.
Last bit of DC movie news. Lego Batman movie is actually getting decent reviews, and I believe that comes out this weekend, doesn't it?
I believe you're right.
Yeah. It had a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes the last time I looked, which surprises me. But they were saying it's not just a fun Lego movie, it's also a decent Batman movie.
Okay.
And that's very interesting to me. So I don't know. Maybe I have to go see Lego Batman. You know what? You guys let us know. Like, shoot me a message on Twitter, head over to the subreddit, and let us know whether you want us to review the Lego Batman movie, because I will do that over Justice League Dark or Powerless.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that. We can go see the Lego Batman movie. That's fine. I'm sure I can figure out a time to do it by the time we record next week. So, once again, for our poll list this week, to recap, Powerless and Justice League Dark. Powerless for sure. If we have so much to say about Powerless, we might save Justice League Dark for the following week. But otherwise, if you tell us to go see Lego Batman, I will go and see. I mean, it's Will Arnett. I can go see Will Arnett play Lego Batman. I'm okay with that. When I knew they were doing a full movie of that, it sounded ridiculous and unnecessary. But if it's good, and if you guys want to hear about it, that's what we're here for. Plus,
Let's do it.
Yeah. Plus, I still have that one free movie ticket that we got.
Oh, yeah.
Last time. Yeah, we went to it. All right. Liam, Sir, bring us into the topic of the week.
Bum, 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 bum. Topic of the week.
That was like the royal treatment. That was dramatic. This week we are talking about Runaways, Volume 1, Issues 1 through 6. Written by Brian K. Vaughan. Pencils by, I'm guessing that was supposed to be Adrian. I have Adaran written down. I'm guessing that was a mistake on mine, because I also wrote pencils wrong. I'm a professional writer, and I can't spell.
Pennicles.
So Adrian Alfona, inks by David Newbold, colors by Brian Reber, letters by Paul Tutroon, edited by C.B. Cebulski, and the covers are by the fabulous Joe Chen. A little bit of background before we get into this. This comic book was first pitched by writer Brian K. Vaughan in 2003 as part of Marvel's Tsunami imprint, which was meant to attract new young readers interested in manga. The imprint failed, and the comic was canceled at issue 18, but it was so popular, especially in trade paperback form, that it got picked up again and ran for 30 issues as a Volume 2, did 14 issues as a Volume 3, and then there was even a little 4-issue thing that they call Volume 4 if you're reading about it online, but it's just a little mini during the Secret Wars crossover that doesn't really feature the same characters, sort of a similar idea, but not the same characters. This book has won several awards over its existence, including an Eisner for Best Writer on the book for Brian K. Vaughan, a Harvey Award for Best Continuing or Limited Series, and it is still sort of considered this cult favorite book that I feel like Marvel has tried to replicate most recently with Champions, in that it's the idea of young characters that go off and do their own thing, except in this case, every single one of these characters was an original character. And since then, several of them are still around the Marvel Universe, even though the series has been canceled and are now in different books. So that is the history of Runaways. Let's go big picture. Liam, what did you think of these first 6 issues?
Clearly it's the beginning, so it's not going to be as punchy as something that's been there and has been developed. But, I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. It did give you sort of a different take on the superhero origins, what with the children each being raised by a parent who is a supervillain. So that's kind of a new take on it. I appreciated that. I would like to read more.
Okay. And that means that it was successful then.
That's true.
Because if you got in the first 6 issues and it wants to drag you on now, but is this the first time that you know of that you've read something by Brian K. Vaughan?
Yes. I believe it is.
Okay. Because that's just that idea of some of the stuff that he writes. He likes to go for the long game. Seems to be one of the things that he very much excels at with things like Why the Last Man and Saga.
Yeah.
So he'll try and get you hooked, but it's not a traditional comic book in that every single issue necessarily has a clear beginning, middle, and end, and then a hook for the next issue.
Yeah.
Like, there's still some of that in there, don't get me wrong, because he's a great writer, but it certainly has that feel to it. Now, in this book, we're introduced to very much a motley crew of kids. It's very much sort of a Scooby Gang, if you will. Everybody has their own thing. There's the character that's just very smart, but not necessarily superhumanly. We find out, spoilers in here, we find out that one of the Runaways is a mutant, one is an alien, one is a magic user, and one doesn't seem to have powers but has a psychic connection to a specially bred velociraptor from the future.
Oh, yeah.
If all that got in there. Did I get everybody? Oh, and one is a jock, but his parents are super geniuses, and he stole the oh shoot, I didn't write it down. He stole their gauntlets that like shoot fire, and fistigons.
Yeah.
And X-ray specs. And so the plot of this book is every year these parents get together and they call themselves the Pride, and they have their secret meeting, and all the kids are forced to hang out. But at this point, they're 15, 16 years old, 17 years old, with the exception of Molly, right?
Yeah, she's
who
11.
is 11. And they're all forced to hang out together. So they decide to sneak through a secret passage in their home because they're all rich. So sneak through a secret passage to spy on what the parents are doing. And that's when they see them all in costume and initially think they're superheroes, find out they're supervillains when they murder a girl as a sacrifice. And so basically they run away, as the name suggests, at which point they find out that each one of their parents left something for their kids or had something somewhere in the event of their own death, because once the kids turned 18, they were supposed to be inducted into this secret society of supervillains. So they start going back in each of these issues. They go back to each one of their houses, sneak in, and try and find something. So one finds a note from their parents. One realizes that she is an alien with magnificent powers that her folks have been keeping under wraps through I don't know if it's magical, but through a special bracelet, keeps her powers from manifesting
Yeah, they haven't
themselves.
explained the origins of the bracelet or exactly how that works, but yeah, it's supposed to like suppress her natural alien tendencies and traits.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is when each person sort of learns what they are or finds the velociraptor their parents left for them from the future, because her parents are time-traveling supervillains. And the one thing that I will say that they did, I feel like because they had to for marketing purposes or something, is towards the end of this run, each of them gives themselves sort of a superhero name.
Yeah.
Sister Grimm, Lucy in the Sky, that sort of thing. If I remember,
Arsenic and Old Lace.
Arsenic and Old Lace, yeah. If I remember correctly, a lot of that doesn't stick around.
Good.
Because they're friends, they call each other by their names, like Nico Minoru I don't know. There was a Sister Grimm one-shot, I think, at one point. But beyond that, generally speaking, everybody just calls her Nico Minoru. Like, because she is still around. She's part of A-Force right now, I believe. So it's a thing that they introduce in here, but really the book, I think after this, starts taking on more of a life of its own, where they're like, look, they have their cool hideout, and they have their, van they drive around in, and they all have special superpowers and superhero names. This is not Champions. This is not Young Justice. This is not Teen Titans. This is not a group of sidekicks or young superheroes who decide to go be superheroes. They talk about doing that. This book is really more about their interpersonal relationships and being on the run. So it's far less about, like, we're going to put on masks and go fight crime. That's not a thing in this book.
Yeah, and so far, their main antagonist has been their parents.
Mm-hmm. And our cliffhanger, though, is that potentially there is a mole in the group.
Yes.
Is somebody leaves a note behind, and for some reason none of the parents can recognize the handwriting because they're all awful parents, but somebody leaves a note behind that says, don't worry, I understand, I'm still loyal to the family. So somebody in there is potentially a mole.
And you know the answer, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I think I do. I believe I do. I have a general memory of what happens down the road. I have read the series before, but it has been a long time. So I know one of the big plot twists, but I don't know if that's related to this specific thing.
Okay. Because I have my theories on who to point the finger at there.
Well, go.
So,
who do you think?
well, my immediate belief is that it's the alien girl.
Lucy in the Sky?
Lucy in the Sky, otherwise known as Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
My backup guess to that would be Chase, the jock guy with all the gadgets.
Okay. He does seem a bit apologetic. Even though his father is abusive, he does say things like, I kind of deserved it, or I bet I deserved it. But that is sort of that mindset, though, of a person who's in that sort of situation. So,
and just the way that he's reacted and treated people, if anybody is going to pull the, I want the power for myself, or I want to be the most important one, or, something like that, I feel like it's got to be him who tries that, as opposed to working for the good of the group, like what most of them have been shown as doing more frequently.
Yeah. Chase, who, by the way, has the worst, I think, name of all of them, because his chosen superhero name that they give him is Talkback, because he talked back to the other kids. Yeah. I do like Molly's, though, because I don't remember what's the name that they actually do give her, but she says she wants to be Princess Powerful, but they give her a different name.
Bruiser.
Yeah, Bruiser. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like that. It's Princess Powerful because she's 11. And
of course, Chase wanted to be Neo.
Yeah. Well, you keep in mind this was written in 2004.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense that, but
yeah.
You're like,
so
why?
Well, because when you're 15, and you're like, so what if it's the name of somebody in a movie? Like, if you became a superhero right now, like, how many names are already taken somewhere? You're not worried about copyright infringement unless you're planning on branding yourself and sending toys and things out into the world.
Yeah, and I guess if you are a dummy 17-year-old, you think the fact that Neo means new is, like, revolutionary.
Exactly. But it is. Whoa.
I know Kung Fu.
Still a good movie. We should do the Matrix comics at some point, because those were actually really fantastic. I should loan those. I have both volumes.
Okay.
I should loan those to you. But yeah, I can certainly get you the next volume, and we can read it on the side. We won't do an episode by episode of continuing to read Runaways, but I'm glad that overall you liked it. Is there anything you didn't like about these first 6 issues?
Nothing really popped at me that I was like, oh, I hate this. There were just kind of like vague impressions of things. Like, since they're all children, it didn't register with me that Molly was so much younger, other than the fact that they were talking about it. Like, physically, she looks the same as the other characters. So
yeah, you basically have to trust the hat with the tassels hanging down is basically that would be my only thing, is not to, I feel like in general the art is fine, but when it comes to Molly, I think And I believe the art does get a little better as it goes on where that's concerned, to try and really visually set her apart from the others.
Yeah. Yeah, because she just, especially the first few issues when they were dealing with her, it was only through the dialogue that I was like, oh yeah, she's younger.
Right.
Yeah, like nothing really popped at me that I really didn't like. I have an interest to continue reading it, but I wouldn't consider myself like a hardcore fan of this,
No, I think you need to dig further into it before you can really. I don't think of those first 6 issues, which isn't true of every series. Sometimes you can read 1 or 2 issues and say, I'm here. Like Black Monday Murders, I was able to read the first issue and be like, okay, this is definitely something interesting. Where some other books, you can't.
Yeah.
Or you don't. But I like Brian K. Vaughan as a writer. And I remember enjoying this series to the point that I went out and tried to find all of Runaways, and then there was like a Young Avengers Runaways crossover, I think, at some point. And then that brought me into like Avengers Academy, Avengers Arena. Like some of these characters started crossing over, all the various young characters in the Marvel Universe at the time. And so it sort of got me interested, like, oh, well, I wonder what they're doing with other stuff. I will say it's not as fun. It's a good book, but it's not as fun as, like, Champions right now, for example, is sort of the young hero book that I'm reading. And it's a little more cartoony and a little more really hitting the nail on the head as far as social issues seems to be what Champions is up to. But again, I don't really remember, I guess. Maybe I shouldn't talk. I have to go back and keep reading Runaways as well to try and remember, which I'm happy doing. Like, I'm happy going and doing a reread of this on the side, because now that I got my tablet, I'm flying through comic books again, because I can read them without waking up the wife by having too much light.
Yeah.
If I was trying to read on a laptop or something digitally, and reading on my phone, I don't have access to all of my digital comics on there. I just have Hoopla on my phone right now. So having access to my library of digital comics on the tablet is nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Any final thoughts before we close out the show on Runaways? How about this? Did reading this, just 6 issues, did this make you interested to see a Runaways television show? Because if it gets adapted, and it's never a direct adaptation, these 6 issues would probably be the first, maybe 2 episodes of the show, or like the first hour and a half, mini movie that kicks off the show. So if you saw this on the screen, would this make you want to watch this as a television show?
I would give this a try. Yeah. It depends on how it's written. It depends on what channel it's on and stuff like that. But yeah, I would try this out as a series, as a viewer.
Okay, and I think I'm there with you. I think so. I read this because our friend Dr. Ray suggested it so heavily, and he's like, I have let me give you Runaways. You need to read this book. And reading so many positive things about it online, I don't know if watching it on TV. I'm so much more selective with television, because I don't want to get invested in something and then have trouble walking away from it. I have a really hard time walking away from a TV show if I've been watching it, especially for a long time. So I'm really curious to see what Hulu does with this, but I am a little worried as far as how they're going to portray it and what they're going to do, and if it's going to have that same hook. Because like you said, it's interesting. It makes you want to read more, but it's not like this deep hooks in you, oh my God, I have to keep reading this book.
Yeah. It's not deeply compelling. Like, as soon as you finish one issue, you're like, I need to see what happens now. I can't wait. But it's like, okay, yeah, I'd like to see how this concludes. I'd like to see how this has some resolution to it. So we'll see what happens.
And with a young adult audience on Hulu as well, I think they should be able to do pretty well, because I can see it working well. I mean, and again, part of this series was written by Joss Whedon at one point. When Brian K. Vaughan left the book, he's like, I want Joss Whedon to take over. And initially he said no, but then gave in and said okay, and then wrote the book for a little while. I could see if they market it and they don't talk about the parents being supervillains maybe, or if they just do it as a mystery or something to try and get people. I'd be curious to see what the marketing strategy would be, because you want the surprise at the very end of the first episode of seeing the parents in costume and then seeing them murder a teenaged girl. If you know that's coming, like, that's the big twist that sets the whole book in motion.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they're going to play it, but I'm interested to find out. There you go, everybody. That is Runaways 1 through 6. That is our review as best as we can throw it at you. If you guys want to keep on reading, certainly do so. We will include it in our weekly geekeries going forward, and we can always talk about it on the subreddit. Speaking of, Liam, you want to bring us into the end of the show?
I certainly will do my best.
Do it. Lay it down.
I
like that. You like the...
I do.
Yeah, like the get down low. Well,
that's my register.
That's fair. That's fair. And that is it for this week, everybody. We are going to close the comic box for this week. Thank you for joining us for this wonderful issue 35 of our series. If you want to get a hold of us and continue the conversation, head over to our subreddit. That's reddit.com/r/geektogeekcast. Link is in the show notes. That is where you can continue the conversation with all of us geeks and all of our listeners in the entire Geek to Geek podcast network. You can also share your own weekly geekery and tell us what you've been doing this week. If you want to talk to us directly, you can find us on Twitter at ComicBoxCast. It used to be Rob's Comic Box. We changed it last week. For me personally, you can find me on Twitter at Noby. That's where I'll have pictures from that Harry Potter night. So that is at KNOWBY. You can find Liam over on the Facebooks. I will provide a link to the Liamses because Liam likes talking to people on the Facebooks.
It's true.
And of course, this is part of the Geek to Geek podcast network. So head over to geektogeekcast.net. You can sign up for email updates on all of our Geek to Geek Cast podcast network shows, which, hooray. The Geek Fitness Health Hacks podcast has recently made a return. I've been listening. That is hosted by Professor Beej. Lastly, as always, we talk about this. iTunes, star ratings and reviews. There are currently 9. 9 people have left reviews for this show. I thank you so much for all of those. If everybody else who's listening to this, if you like this show, if you want us to keep doing it, please just head over there, tap the star, give us a star rating or review to keep us going. That would be fantastic. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Yeah, get off your duff, people. It's on you.
Yeah, it's your thumb. Your thumb can do the walking. So that is it for this week. Liam, thank you for joining me.
And thank you for having me, as always.
And as always, we will see you guys next week. The Comic Box Talking Runaways.
Volume 1.
Volume 1. That should be their theme song for their show.
Hey,
Talk
there you
about
go.
the Runaways. There. That one's it's not free. $2 million. You can have that.
Yeah.